Are there any awards, recognition, or correspondence?
None for me.
None? Okay. No minutes? Any additions to the agenda, Council? All right. Is anybody in the audience who wishes to address the commissioners on a topic other than that which is on the agenda?
Don't open the door for him.
Do you have somewhere to go this morning, Commissioner, that you'll be in a hurry?
I'm just here to take up your time.
All right. Okay. We'll start through our agenda. The first item on the agenda is the Canine Program.
Morning, Captain Dave Williamson with the Sheriff's Office. This is a request for to be able to pay off the invoice for the upcoming, well, number one, to establish our canine program, and number two, to take the amount of the payment of $14,500 from pre-existing line items temporarily until such a time as the grant that we have received for the canine program comes in, at which point we'll backfill those items. The amount for the animal and the training is $14,500, and I neglected to attach the pinky to my stack here, but we'd like to take it out of training and program specific costs on a temporary basis. The kennel asks to receive their payment prior to the training, so that's the reason we're asking to do that now instead of later.
As a note for our CFO, I don't know if he was there when I indicated I had gotten a firm indication from Wild Horse that the money is coming.
I understood that, yeah.
The commitment in that regard.
And an additional 5 too, right?
Yes, from NAFA. So we have 25 so far.
Okay.
All right, questions of Captain Williamson?
No. I move approval.
Second?
No, I do. It's exciting, so I.
Thank you.
Vote. Everybody in favor? Yes, we got a picture of the.
It's nice.
Yes, he's down there this week actually meeting the dog and getting some practice time with him. And
It's nice
Actually,
support.
my phone went off at about 4 a.m. and I thought, what in the heck? And Deputy Markham sent me a picture with his new partner.
he's a nice looking dog.
Yeah, for sure. And so, but it was, I think it's 7 a.m. his time.
All right,
you.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Congratulations. Item 2, computer purchase, community corrections.
Start the clock.
I know, that's my super tanker. Good morning, Commissioners. Dale Primer, Director, Umatilla County Community Justice. For about the last 3 budget cycles, we have budgeted to replace all of the computers in community corrections. That's been on pause now, waiting for the Department of Corrections is doing some changeover in their IT infrastructure to support community corrections differently. So we have budgeted these amounts for multiple budget cycles, and we've finally got the word in the last couple of weeks to move forward with the purchase. Just as a reminder, as community corrections being a subdivision of both the county or of the Department of Corrections, our IT is managed through those. So our computer purchases and all the equipment we buy related to that, we buy through the Department of Corrections. They go through some state contract to get what it is that they have to have, but we don't have the option of buying equipment other than through them. So you'll note that there's not multiple bids or any kind of process that goes through there. We have to purchase what they tell us to purchase and through them. So the amount we're asking for is $47,843. Now, so a small amendment to that is I did get a call yesterday saying that the total cost is going to be about $2,100 more than that. So I don't know if you want to approve a total amount of $50,000, and that would allow for some additional software. It's what came in as small little items, speakers, anti-surge protection kinds of things, and the total of those things are going to be an additional. So I don't know if you want to add that on to this total purchase price, or if we want to do that separately through materials and services. Either way is fine, but that's the gist of where we're at with it.
Dale, how many computers are involved here?
Oh, I think it's about 27, 28, and then it's monitors, we've been working on the same computers now for a long time, and we've been due for a long time, and so that cost has built up, and we've just been waiting for them to move to a cloud-based system that will allow us, quite frankly, to move into the 21st century in terms of computer accessing our emails and things that we can't get on mobile devices and all of those things. This is going to enable a lot of those things that we've been held back with. So like I said, we've been in a holding pattern for a while until DOC got their infrastructure up and ready.
What do we do with the old computers?
Well, some of them we turn over to DOC, and if we don't have a use for them, or they'll go to the county for any use that they might have. There's other times that we've used them. We have certain computers in our office that we use to host certain things, what we call our office share, that holds all of our documents and stuff that become kind of a network computer. So some of them will get used in that fashion, but some of them are just to the point where they're just technologically out of date. They're just
Not usable, couldn't donate it to the school or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can ask DOC if they can find some use for them. I mean, we do have several around the office that are old that we use for various different things, and I'm sure that some of the ones we're using for day-to-day operation now will transfer into some of those kinds of things. But these are desktops for staff, is what this is.
In light of the fact that I'm sure you have sufficient funds, I would accept a motion that we approve the purchase in the amount of $47,843 plus the additional costs of making them operational.
So moved.
Second.
Other discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
All right, election payable envelopes.
This is a standard payable coming before the board because of the dollar amount. It's for envelopes for the last election.
Didn't we already do this one?
It was for a different, that we've had support.
Oh, these were are these the envelopes that we had to
This might be, there's
purchase
secrecy.
because of the stamp and self-addressed envelopes, prepaid envelopes?
That I don't know.
Okay.
Or are these for it says for the upcoming election, maybe the timing of when that was prepared may have been prior to the last election, I'm not sure, but.
All right.
I'm
Mr. Chair, I
okay.
move approval.
The question I have on it is this, 150,000 envelopes to mail, 150,000 return envelopes. How many voters do we have?
I'm sure this may be a supply, isn't it, Council?
Yes.
For more than one election?
Inventory, yes.
Okay. I move approval.
Already did that.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
It wasn't recognized.
Okay. The fourth item on the agenda is a contract for the employment of a medical examiner. Do you want me to speak to it? All right. This is not an item that we deal with very often, and certainly not one that either myself or council were aware of, but when we deemed it necessary to make a change in that position, the medical director for the county, Dr. John Hitzman, stepped in by law or policy as the interim medical examiner. However, he did not wish to continue that on a permanent basis, so we set about searching for a qualified individual to fill in that position, which isn't always easy to do because the medical examiner is required to carry a telephone on their person 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, regardless of where they are or what they're doing, and to be responsive accordingly. In searching for someone, we were able to find Dr. Amy Rogers, who is quite interested in becoming medical examiner, and even to the point of indicating that she's going to seek additional opportunities for training. She really wants to take it seriously. She wants to do it for a long time. And maybe at some point, even when she leaves her current medical practice, she might even want to continue as medical examiner. So I think, speaking for council, I think both of us are extremely excited to have someone wishing to step into that position. It's really important that we have good relationships with law enforcement regarding the medical examiner, that the funeral homes have a distinct interest in this, but more than that, the families of the victims also need careful and professional attention, and we think we found all of that in Dr. Rogers, and so that's why we're proposing a contract in the amount of $72,000, $6,000 per month to move forward. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, her immediate liaison with the county is going to be the DA. Is that correct?
Right.
Do we have contact information for her for the sheriff's office?
Oh, we
They'll be
will.
the ones getting all
Well,
of her.
we don't now, but because she doesn't start till January 1st. But we will.
I guess I just want to make sure that they have that information prior
phone.
to January 1st,
Yeah.
so they'll have it in there.
We do have her cell phone number.
Okay,
Yeah.
as long as they get it, that's the main thing.
Yeah, she also has indicated an interest in actually visit whenever she can in visiting the scene as much as possible, particularly in any case where there might be question. So I'm really pleased with where we are on this.
I'll move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Fair payable.
This is coming before the board because of the dollar amount. This past fair, the fair board made the decision to contract with Pac West to handle all of the marketing for the fair, and the payable is for those expenses that have accrued since, I believe, the last 3 months.
Mr. Chair, move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, Mr. Paul, you're on. We'll go into hearing mode at this point for the presentation of supplemental budgets.
Good morning, Commissioners. Robert Paul, CFO. This morning we have 10 supplemental budgets for you to consider. The first one is Budget Order 2020-07, General Fund Emergency Management. And the Emergency Management Program requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in state revenue of $50,000 and an increase in capital outlay of $50,000. Next, Budget Order 2020-08, School-Based Health Center Mental Health. The School-Based Health Center Mental Health Program requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in transfers of $166,000 and an increase in personnel services of $148,123 and an increase in materials and services of $17,877. Budget Order 2020-10, Nuisance Abatement, requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in local revenue of $37,000 and an increase in materials and services of $37,000. Budget Order 2020-11, County Fair, requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in local revenue of $114,000 and an increase in materials and services of $114,000. Budget Order 2020-12, Wind Farm Distribution, requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in local revenue of $2,770,000, an increase in materials and services of $1,770,000, an increase in transfers out of $325,000, and an increase in contingency of $675,000. Budget Order 2020-13, 2050 plan requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in state revenue of $1 million and an increase in materials and services of $1 million. Budget Order 2020-15, fleet management requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in transfers in of $240,000 and an increase in capital outlay of $240,000. Budget Order 2020-16, capital purchases requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in local revenue of $85,000, an increase in transfers in of $85,000, and an increase in capital outlay of $170,000. Budget Order 2020-17, Mental Health Administration requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in local revenue of $16,000, an increase in state revenue of $173,068, an increase in federal revenue of $80,000, and an increase in materials and services of $269,068. And Budget Order 2020-18, developmental disabilities requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in beginning cash of $446,000, an increase in materials and services of $158,700, and an increase in contingency of $287,300. Those are the proposed supplemental budgets. Any questions?
Any questions from the audience? All right, we will go out of public hearing and into deliberation.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of Budget Order 2020-07.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Mr. Chair, move approval 2020-08.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Move approval of Budget Order 2020-10.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Move approval of Budget Order 2020-11.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Move approval of Budget Order 2020-12.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Move approval of Budget Order 2020-13.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Move approval of Budget Order 2020-15.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Move approval of Budget Order 2020-16.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Move approval of Budget Order 2020-17.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Move approval of Budget Order 2020-18.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Commissioners, there are also two transfer appropriations for this meeting. Budget Order 2020-09, School-Based Health Center requires a transfer appropriation to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires a decrease in personnel services of $166,000, an increase in capital outlay of $8,000, an increase in transfers out of $166,000, and a decrease in contingency of $8,000. And Budget Order 2020-14, Communication Equipment Reserve, requires a transfer of appropriations to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in materials and services of $5,000 and a decrease in contingency of $5,000.
Move approval of Budget Order 2020-09.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Move approval of Budget Order 2020-14.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 8, board meeting schedule.
Mr. Chair, move approval.
Second.
Did we get them all worked out?
Yes, there were two that needed to be moved. The first one was set for January 1st, and since the office is closed that day, the proposal is to move it to January 2nd. And then due to the NACO conference, the March 4th meeting did not have a quorum, so it was proposed to move that to March 11th, the following Wednesday.
All right. Did we get a motion already?
Yep.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And finally, item 9, I assume that's to formally adopt the strategic plan, is that correct?
That is correct.
I think we've all reviewed it. It's, I think, a pretty good job.
Mm-hmm.
Looks pretty straight.
I think I'm going to ask that Kathy, through Melinda, send a copy to all of the counties in Oregon as well as the cities within our jurisdiction.
Very good. How many do we have?
12.
I think the number was 500.
We have enough copies to send to the 12 then.
Yeah, we have 800, sorry.
Was it 800 or 500?
What?
Was it 800?
I think she said 800 at the meeting.
Let's see, are we sure that one of the cities didn't go? No, that's in Morrow County. That
Yeah.
almost went away. I move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, comments from the commissioners?
I have none.
I kind of hope you're paying close attention to how this meeting was managed. We're adjourned.